There you go. I'm back again, ready for another podcast. Welcome to the podcast. This is the Colonel and the Kid podcast, and I'm the host, Gregory L. Heitmann. You can call me Greg, I guess. This is a podcast that I put together to kind of just honor my grandfather. His name was Lieutenant Colonel Edwin P. Hagen Jr., and I wrote a memoir about a relationship. He was the colonel, I was the kid, and now I've taken that written memoir, and I'm trying to put that into the video and audio record. So we have the Colonel and the Kid podcast. So the video can be seen on YouTube, or the audio can just be heard on whatever podcast system you use. I don't know. I have an iPhone, so I use Apple Podcasts. So that's how I listen to my own podcast if I ever listen to it, just to see how it sounds. But anyway, this is a big day. We're going 4 days in a row. It is February 4th, Wednesday. And time is it? 2:00. 2:00 start today for the podcast. Got out there, still in the dog sitting mode, so I had to go take the dog for a walk, and then had to go take care of us. It's Estevan's dog, Echo. So, but he also has a gecko or lizard. I don't know if is it a gecko? I think it's a gecko. He has a gecko, and I had to go feed that today, and then spray some water in its little container, little terrarium. And then he's also got an orchid, so I had to spray some spray water on that orchid. So hopefully that orchid will bloom for him coming up. But just cross your fingers I'm not going to kill his lizard or his dog while he's gone on vacation. So wish me luck with that. That was it's been a big busy week trying to take care of that dog and keep it from barking and crying in my backyard while it's over at my house here. I don't want to disturb the neighbors. And that dog seems like I guess it's out of its habitat. It's away from home, so it's probably a little confused. So it's a little nervous, and it'll be outside in the backyard. It'll be looking in the patio window. And if I'm not within its view, it gets nervous and starts crying and barking and howling. And it's pretty hilarious too, because it'll howl like a wolf out there, just crazy. I was hoping to see if I get some video of that, but I haven't been able to do that yet. Probably won't be able to do that during the wintertime because I have to open up the sliding door. They would probably hear the door and be all happy to see me and stop howling. So, but maybe I can video it through the door and you wouldn't get the good sound, but you could see it howling like a wolf. Anyway, we got another podcast today, another chapter to read into the record. This one's chapter 26. This is called The Duck Decoys. And this is a long chapter, so I'm going to hopefully be okay getting through it. Oh, I don't know. It's a lot of photos anyway. Mostly photos. Seems like it's probably 1,000 plus words, maybe 1,200 words. We'll see. You can get a count on that beforehand, but it's a good one. The Duck Decoys. This is I just read it a while ago to prepare for the official reading to the record. So just try to familiarize myself so I don't stumble around too much with my read aloud skills, the oral reading for the day, and get on top of that here. But I just wanted to say a couple more things about Grandpa. You know, he's a great guy. I really miss him, and after doing these chapters, this is the 4th day in a row. It just seems so long ago that my grandpa passed away. I think that was, let's say it was 2008. So it's I'm pretty sure it was 2008 or 2007. Either way, 17 or 18 years ago. It just seems like forever. Just can't believe it. It's been that long already. But it would be so cool to see to have a conversation with him now after another almost 20 years of experience, and compare notes, I guess, about living life and retiring. Talk about retirement. I think I think when my mom Mom told this story about calling grandpa, her father, is my maternal grandfather, again, Lieutenant Colonel Edwin P. Hagen Jr., just grandpa to me. But anyway, my mom called him when she turned 65 and started collecting Social Security. And my grandpa was just like, it's in disbelief. I don't think he was speechless, but just practically speechless. Just couldn't couldn't wrap his head around that he had a daughter that was receiving Social Security. So that's just it just makes me laugh thinking about that. And you know, he always had uh, a face that could make a lot of expressions, I guess, or just show a lot of emotion on his face with just his crazy expressions he'd make about the shock. And I just picture him making this weird face on the probably just on the phone. I think that my mom called him and told him, "Yep, that's my birthday, and today I'm on Social Security." I could just picture him making this twisted up face, like holding the phone up, like, "Dear Lord, how can I be so old? My own daughter's 65 and on Social Security." So anyway, I find that particularly amusing and nostalgic to think about. So, but anyway, this the memoir, the Colonel and the Kid memoir, is builds the Colonel and the Kid podcast, and then that's the spine of the story, the chapter. I'll read a chapter here, and then talk about some other recurring segments. I don't know if I really have much to talk about today. I do have some complaints I wanted to air, some grievances to air, get off my chest. And I do that because this is writing the memoir was sort of a psychotherapy for me, and it's just like it's my cheap psychotherapist is myself, and doing this on now on video and audio, I can have like double the value of psychotherapy of expressing my opinions about stuff and feelings, and writing down and monitoring my feelings about the history of who I am, why I am, whatever. And then I think today, in my pre-reading of this, just to go over it, I think I talked about just philosophically of how you become what you become. Why are you you? For me, why am I me? I guess that's the question. It's really weird to start thinking about and ponder. It's it's uh it's probably a good exercise just to think about how you became yourself, and understand it better, and understand why you do things the way you do, and just be able to I don't know if you want to say rationalize it, but just to consider it, and maybe just have an aha. It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense about me now. And maybe you see, well, that makes sense, but that's bad. I need to change it. So I really haven't had any of that. I think I'm pretty good the way I am. Never change, they say. So no, that's not true. I'm trying to change every day for the better. So anyway, let's get this chapter read into the record. This is again season 2. So this is volume 2 of the memoir. The first volume was chapters 1 through 20. Now this is season 2, volume 2, and this will be chapters 21 through 40. So today we're on chapter 26, and this chapter is called The Duck Decoys. And I'm going to go ahead and just get into it. So here we are, The Colonel and the Kid memoir, chapter 26, The Duck Decoys. And we always start with a quote. And quote, "To succeed, work hard, never give up, and above all, cherish a magnificent obsession." End quote. Walt Disney. So this quote, I don't exactly remember how I came across this quote. Just maybe it was about thinking about my own personal obsession with decoys, but this one, and maybe put in Google search about quotes about obsessions, and I think maybe that's how I came about. I don't remember if that's correct, but that's probably the way it happened. And this whole chapter and this quote, and then the final quote too, and we'll save that to the end of the chapter. But the final quote too, it really bookends this the meat and the heart of the chapter for this. That really meaningful to me anyway, about just having an obsession and continuing that throughout your life and working hard at it, trying to succeed. I don't know if that's if duck decoys is actually can work hard at it, but it's something that you enjoy, I guess. So, just like it just is what it is, so to speak. But all right, maybe that'll make sense. It'll make more sense once I start reading the chapter. So let's start reading the chapter. I have a long and continuing history. No, more like an obsession with duck decoys that can be traced back to Grandpa. I love ducks and duck hunting. There was an inspirational book in my life that put me on this passionate ducky path. I mentioned my little book again. I think the Sportsterfield Know Your Ducks and Geese book was picked up in Devil's Lake, North Dakota, at a drugstore shop we visited on a routine trip to the barber shop for the boys. And I had the first photo of the chapter here. And it's sort of a composite photo, and I'll read the caption and then try to describe. So it says, images from the Know Your Ducks and Geese booklet. And so it's got three of the plates, I guess I call them plates, colored pictures by the artist. I should have the booklet here and have the artist and be able to tell you who the artist is. But I don't have it. I forgot. Another error, a correction I should have done. But anyway, there's three images, and on the left, they're called Ross's geese, and they're just white geese with similar to snow goose, but they're a little smaller, and they have really bright pink feet and bright pink beaks. And in the middle, there's a kind of the stalwart image of the Canada goose. And there's three Canada geese that are flying. And then on the right panel, it's an American pintail. It's a really good image of the drake pintail jumping up from the water and flying up into the air. So I say that these images are, I guess they're burned into my brain, and like I said, I should have shown for the video podcast, I should have had the little booklet here so I could hold it up and flip through the pages and show you the actual pages where they came from and stuff. I didn't do that, but maybe in another chapter, if I have another reference to it, I can do that. I can find that book. I got so much just junk laying around here. I need to really, really straighten up the office and the desk and everything just to get organized a little better so I can do this. But I've been working hard trying to get these podcasts out and keep a little streak alive to keep the momentum so I can go through and share this stuff. So, I mean, I'm weighing the balance of actually delaying the podcast versus cleaning. So I'm always going to push cleaning to the back burner. So a little drink of water here before we continue. All right, back to the chapter. I believe I was 5 or 6 years old, and I mentioned this booklet again because of the impact it had on me. Thoughts of ducks still tangled my mind. As careful as I was with this treasured booklet, I still wore it out, constantly paging through the 64 pages. I should be glad that this preoccupation was something that's pretty innocuous. And in the grand scheme of things, my parents had to have been thankful this was something this was something that could occupy my energy. I redrew the images from that booklet over and over, then cut the images out from the paper that I'd drawn on. Finally, I would paste them onto another sheet of paper, making a collage of ducks and geese. I spent hours on end engrossed in the facts associated with the birds in that book. Many of those ducks and geese I had witnessed in the wild, tagging along with my dad on a few fall waterfowl hunting trips. But the sea ducks listed in that booklet were exotic, fantastical birds I could only imagine existing in places I would never go. The common names of some of the ducks still ring in my ears when I review the pages of that old book: greenhead, sprig, bluebill, ringbill, butterball, whistler. These are the ducks that still fascinate me. So the second photo from this chapter, and I'll read the caption, and then I'll try to describe this myriad of images here. The caption reads, "Some of my early artwork circa 1976, where you can see my colored pencil images cut out and pasted to another piece of paper based on the Know Your Ducks and Geese booklet. Front and center is my version of the American pintail from the previous photo mentioned above." So I have multiple images of the mallard, drakes, the greenheads, the drake gadwall, drake widgeon, drake teal, a black duck, and they're just images basically copied, not traced or anything, but just hand drawn, looking at the images from that little booklet. I redrew them myself and then colored them with colored pencil. Then for some reason I cut them out and then pasted them onto another piece of paper. And the ducks are just going every direction possible, just upside down, left to right, up and down. It's the work of an 8-year-old or 9-year-old artwork. Probably should be in a museum someplace. Probably in the MoMA, Museum of Modern Art. So maybe someday it'll find its resting place there. And then I have another photo below that, and I'll read the caption and try to describe. Cut and paste images from the Know Your Ducks and Geese booklet. The Ross's goose is a particular favorite because of the bright pink marker I had for coloring the beak and feet. You can see my models from the first photo in this chapter. Lots of memories here for me. Don't ask me how I managed to save these treasures from over 45 years ago. So this photo, it just has there's like a pair of Canada geese on the left, and then there's a pair of Canada geese in the middle, and then on the right side of the piece of paper, there's a Ross's goose, and they are all basically modeled after that first photograph I showed of that little booklet of the Canada geese and the Ross's geese that were flying there. And again, they're just colored pencil images, drawn and colored, and then cut out and then repasted on a piece of paper. And as I mentioned, it's got the bright pink feet of the Ross's goose and the really bright pink beak, the bill of that goose. And what's amazing is the color of that pink has not faded in these 45 years. It's really crazy how bright color that it remains. And then I have a couple more photos here. And I'll read the caption, then discuss a little bit more as I enjoy seeing these. And I'll read the caption. A couple of photos that eliminate all doubt to the fact that I was obsessed with waterfowl. The image on the left shows my dad, me, and Grady after a day afield in the fall of 1977. On the right is a photo of my 9th birthday cake, a snow goose. Note my unvarying wardrobe dedicated to the Minnesota Vikings. I had that red vest and I was ready to hunt. So the photo on the left, this is a photo of our back patio in Rolla, North Dakota. And we're all kneeling down, we're on our knees, and my mom is taking the picture. And forgive me, Mom, if this is going to be critical, I guess, but she didn't really get a good picture of the geese that were laid out in front of us as we were kneeling down. you can't even see that there's any geese there because she cut it off. Grady's holding up a goose, a snow goose. I don't know if he shot that himself, and so he was holding it up, trying to display it. And but you can't see any other geese that are laid out in front of us. And my dad's on the left, and he's got his, what I remember his hunting clothes were. He had the Jones style brown hunting cap, plaid flannel shirt, and the brown canvas pants that were his hunting pants. That was his uniform for hunting. And there I am in the middle. I'm pretty small. I think, what was I, 8 or 9? That was 1977. I was 8, I guess. And got my Minnesota Vikings sweatshirt on, and it's gold sleeves and collar, but then white on the torso and back. And it's got it says Minnesota Vikings around the purple old school 2-bar little helmet, the Vikings purple helmet with a horn on it and stuff. Pretty cool. And I'm wearing a red vest, and I think blue jeans or some sort of jeans pants there. Maybe black. Maybe they're black jeans, denim. And then Grady, he's kind of I'm kind of squatting down a little lower in my kneeling position, and Grady's he's more upright in his kneeling. He's holding the goose in his right hand, and he's got similar sweatshirt as me, and he's wearing blue jeans, and he's really smiling, and looks good. Really, really cool picture in Rolla, North Dakota house. So at that time in 1977, I look at my dad. He looks pretty young there, and he would have been 40 in 1977. He was born in 1937. So yeah, that's really nostalgic to see that photo. And then on the photo on the right, there I am, and I'm holding up the cake. I'm just kind of lifting up the cake. It's a snow goose. It's supposed to be a snow goose, and it looks like a bird. And my mom had a little pattern, a little booklet that she would tell you. It would tell you how to cut a square pancake into not a pancake. If you just had like a rectangular pan that you would use to bake a cake, and then you could slice that up and then put it, reassemble it to make it look like wings and a head and a tail and stuff. And it was some sort of white frosting. I can't remember what that white frosting was. It was good right away, but then it got really sticky and hard in a short time. So it was more of a decorative frosting than tasty, good eating frosting. And it's got like the orange slice sugar candy for a foot and leg on towards its tail, and the same sort of candy, orange slice candy with a sugary coating, whatever kind of candy that was. And as the beak, also the bill of the goose. So, and again, I'm wearing my Vikings sweatshirt with the gold sleeves and stuff, and looks good. And I'm kind of lifting the cake just up a little bit as the photographer takes the picture from across the other side of the table. And this is in the Rolla, North Dakota house. And I think that's 1977. So I was 8 at that time. Not great. I was in 2nd or 3rd grade. Good times. So back to the chapter. Well, I should say that I'm going to put these photos, I'll upload these photos into the video, the YouTube video podcast. So if you want to see the podcast and watch the podcast and see the photos, you can just go there. The audio podcast is fine too. It's probably good enough. You get the gist with my great description of the photos themselves. Anyway, here you go. Back to the chapter. In the mid-1970s, when I was just a few years old, Grandpa threw gasoline on my fiery passion for ducks and decoys. Grandpa gave us a Christmas gift during those critical formative years. Grady and I each got a pair of mallard decoys. State of the art for the times, they were inflatable rubber decoys, a little larger than life, i.e., known as magnum decoys, with a valve near the backside of the decoy that you could pull out and blow air to inflate. Press the valve in, and voila, sealed and ready to throw out in the water and hunt over. When you're done hunting, pull out the valve, squeeze and expel the air, and then push the valve back in, and then you could fold them flat and transport or store. Brilliant, brilliant design. And here we have another photo, and I'll read the caption. Grady blowing a duck call, a gift from Grandpa for Christmas 1977. I think that was the same year we got the duck decoys. Unfortunately, there are no photos of those decoys. A duck call. What a gift. I can't help but think that Grandpa enjoyed giving that gift quite a lot. A parent's nightmare. A loud, quacking instrument to rattle your nerves at all hours of the day. There's no photo, but I believe I got a goose call that Christmas as well. I'm sure we provided stereo waterfall calls for the holidays. Somewhere, maybe with my mom's Elvis Presley 45s, there exists a 45 RPM record that was a tutorial on how to blow the goose call. So the little photo of Grady, he's got the duck call in his mouth, and he's blowing the duck call, and he's in 77. He's probably 11, I think 11 years old. And it's at my grandma and grandpa's house in town in Siston. At that time, they still lived in the town of Siston before they moved out to the country house. And he's got the kind of like a long sleeve shirt on, light pale blue maybe, and it's got more like a 70s style. It's got this. It's like the seams are on the outside of the shirt, and across the chest, it's got like a blue panel on the right, and then the center, it's got an orangish brown panel, and then another blue panel on the left side, across the top of the chest. Kind of a cool looking 1970s style shirt like that. But probably more interesting gift in the background there is a electric racetrack of electric race cars that was in a big box still. And I think we got that set up and played with that. I remember on Christmas night. It looks like, if I can read that correctly, Jackie Stewart, famous race car driver from the late 60s, early 70s, I think it was. And I mean, he was famous Englishman. And I remember probably 10 years ago, he was in some sort of commercial from non-alcoholic beer. He was showing driving a car and not drinking, because he was drinking non-alcoholic beer or something like that. I remember that. But Jackie Stewart, boy, that's a blast from the past. Seeing that, I just noticed that. I'm just looking at this photo just now. So anyway, great photo. I kind of wish I wish I had some pictures of the decoys, and then the goose call. And there's another note to self here to look for that 45 RPM record of the tutorial on how to use that. It was a snow goose call. It wasn't a Canada goose call. It was a snow goose call. And there was a tutorial record on how to do that. So I wish I could find that. I'll do some looking. I know I have my mom's box of Elvis Presley 45s here in my office where I'm doing the podcast. I can check that out and flip through. There's probably 50 Elvis Presley records in there. And I'm hoping that tutorial goose call record is in there. That'd be pretty cool to share. Anyway, back to the chapter. I was still a few years away from being old enough to actually carry a gun and shoot ducks, but I had decoys ready when that time was to come. I think my dad actually got a pair of similar decoys, so the family had an even half dozen ready to go. We each got a mallard and mallard drake and a hen mallard. They were great replicas in color and shape. When I did finally see them float in the water, I was a little disappointed. They didn't ride the waves like a real duck. I guess the inflatable floating duck decoy industry soon found out this wasn't the model that hunters could use, and different styles evolved. And I add parenthetically that I've never seen them advertised or seen them in the stores or anything like that. Those inflatable decoys like that. So I think I just did not work and look as real as they should. So I think that the industry went away from that style. I have another photo here. I'll read the caption, then maybe talk about it a little bit. I had to include this photo of Grandpa blowing his duck call on a Peever Slough hunt circa 1960. It's a little blurry, but the effect adds to the mystique of the duck hunting adventure. It's hard for me to imagine this picture as crystal clear, crisp photo. The fuzziness of the photo enhances the action. The duck's about to swing in as Grandpa readies his shotgun. And it's a bright sunshine, blue sky day, no clouds or anything, and there's the cattails there. They have a boat, and Grandpa's at the one end of the boat, and I'm assuming it was Richard Hansen, Grandpa's hunting partner and brother-in-law, hunting together. I think Richard took the picture, pretty sure. And it's really blurry. It's out of focus and kind of scratched up. And I don't know if I think I've talked a little bit about that. These were 35 millimeter slides that I converted into photographs. And this was just not a high quality slide to begin with, but you can see Grandpa's got the gun in his left hand, the shotgun in his left hand, the duck call in his right hand. And he's got, looks like a Jones style hunting cap, and looks maybe more like a military jacket that he's wearing, just an olive drab green and dark pants. I don't know if he's wearing waders or anything, but can't really see what else is in the boat. Looks like maybe there's a thermos or something, coffee thermos, but the cattails are all tan and brown, light brown, and there's interwoven and stuff. And there's shadows in and amongst the cattails, and it's a pretty cool photo. It's just a little blurry, and it could have been better, but at the same time, I think the way I put in the caption, it adds to the mystique of hunting in the photo, like action photo of the duck's about to swing in, and you're just getting in position, blowing the call the last time from your camouflage position. But in actuality, Grandpa's kind of exposed there. He looks like the sun's shining on him quite a bit too. So it might be, well, I'm guessing it's really a staged photo, but it looks pretty cool overall. Back to the chapter. I can't say I remember hunting over those decoys exclusively, but 15 to 20 years later, Grandpa was done duck hunting, and he headed down his duffel bag of decoys. Grandpa's old decoys had seen a lot of use. I think they were Herder Company decoys from the 1950s. I have to do some research to confirm. They were hollow rubber mallard decoys, and the coloring on the drakes was almost gone, making the hens and drakes nearly indistinguishable. About life size, the rubber was starting to lose some of its elasticity, but they were in decent working order for a decoy. The carrying instrument was an Army-issued worn-out duffel bag that still bore the stencil of Edwin P. Hagen Jr. on its side. And I add parenthetically, it was stenciled in white paint with his name. Pretty sure it was an Army-issued GI that he had used during his military days. Those decoys got used on Long Lake, out on the point for many hunts. Those old decoys floated more realistically than the newer inflatable Christmas gifts from Grandpa. We ended up with a spread of about 24 decoys all told for several years. Then we have another photo here. I'll read the caption, then describe. Richard Hansen, Marlboro Man, holds some nice Drake mallards and a Drake canvasback during a hunt on Peever Slough, circa 1960. This is a perfect representation of the rugged man's man of the 1960s, cap cocked at a decent angle and cigarette dangling from the lips. Birds in hand and shotgun in the lap. What more could you ask for? So the photo, it's akin to the previous photo of Grandpa that I described. They're out in Peever Slough. It's a bright, sunshiny day, and they're in the phragmites, weeds, and you can see that some of the water, the slough water, reflecting the sky blue in the background. And in the lower third of the photo is really clouded, and I don't know if it was damaged or somehow the slide got messed up, but you can't really see much what's going on in the boat itself, but It gets clearer as it gets up to about Richard's knees, and then you can start seeing the shotgun there, and then the ducks are pretty. Well, the ducks are obviously, you can see those obviously held in his hands. He's kind of grabbing them and holding them up for the photo itself. And he's got like a Jones style dark hat on it, dark canvas brown jacket, and looks like he's got some sort of push pole or something there, or maybe an oar on the right side of the photo. But pretty good photo, except for the little cloudiness on the bottom, like that photo. Some nice ducks he's holding up. Back to the chapter. Before Grandpa turned over those decoys, he used them on Beaver Slough, hunting with Richard, his brother-in-law. I've even seen some photos of Grandpa and Richard in the field, and I'm hoping to track them down for inclusion in this record. And I add parenthetically, they're here. I've included them. There were never many specific hunting stories, waterfall or otherwise, that Grandpa shared, at least with me. The only two I can recall have the sparsest of details to share. The first one revolves around Grandpa and his crew that included Richard hunting on Beaver Slough. A couple of the guys, including Grandpa, pranked Richard by switching out his box of shotgun ammunition with a box of shells that they had removed the shot from. Instead of the little lead BBs in the shotgun shells, they'd replaced those pellets with salt. So they felt the same as far as the weight goes, but there was no deadly BBs in the shotgun shell, only salt. The men dispersed to different areas of the Beaver Slough to keep the ducks moving, and the hunt began in earnest with the sunrise. As the morning wore on, Richard fired away on his side of the slough with nothing to show for it. It was a good joke as the men reconvened at the vehicles to load up the John boats along with their limits of ducks. There was Richard, empty-handed and a little embarrassed when questioned on how he was skunked. After all, they had given him the best spot, and they heard all the shooting. With a shrug of his shoulders, Richard sheepishly declared that he had no idea what was wrong. Just couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. The guys finally let him in on the joke, and Richard, ever the good sport, just enjoyed the laugh. And here's another photo. I'll read the caption and describe. A smiling Richard Hansen, Grandpa's brother-in-law and hunting partner, poses with a fine harvest after morning hunt on Beaver Slough circa 1963. So it's Richard standing up in the boat. Looks like they're up on the edge of the bank, maybe a little bit, or shoved into the bank, and there's some tall phragmites towering over him a little bit in the background, and looks like he's got a nice, I don't know, 6 or 7 mallards there he's holding on game straps over his shoulders, and he's really smiling. I think it's, Richard enjoying himself, and he would smile for the camera, and like Grandpa most of the time, not smiling. And he's holding the shotgun in his right hand, and his left hand, he's kind of stabilizing the strap of the ducks hanging over his shoulders there. And he's just got like a grayish brown jacket, and I think it's a brown hunting cap. I don't know if that's a Jones style hunting cap, and can't really see what else is in the boat there, but good photo. This one's a lot clearer than the other ones. Looks like it has some scratches on it, so it's marked up as far as it's not a perfect photo, but it's in focus and not as damaged as the other couple ones that I showed earlier. Back to the chapter. The other waterfowling adventure I remember overhearing was Grandpa asking my dad if he remembered a hunting story from many years ago about sneaking through a shelter belt to get close to a cornfield filled with snow geese on a cold, snowy fall day. And my grandpa and my dad had been out hunting. And I remember my dad shaking his head from side to side. It wasn't that he didn't remember the story. He was shaking his head in disbelief. He recalled only shooting 2 of his potential 3 shells because so many geese were knocked down in the first 2 shots they took. He knew they were going to be over their limits with just 1 shot. Grandpa, too, was still awed by the story. He told the story slowly with that faraway look in his eye, thinking back how he had crawled through the trees to within a few feet of the edge of the flock, coming eye to eye with unsuspecting and hungry geese. It conjures my own memories similar to the radio commercials of my youth from DeSmit Farm Mutual Insurance. Their commercials would always have the announcer recalling a memorable event related to living in South Dakota. And he would always conclude with another great memory from DeSmit Farm Mutual Insurance from South Dakota. And here's another photo. And I'll read the caption and describe. Grandpa displaying the fruits of a successful morning hunt on Peever Slough circa 1963. And Grandpa in this photo, he's not smiling. He's just kind of seriously looking. And I'm guessing again, this is probably Richard as a photographer on one end of the boat, looking towards the other end of the boat. And Grandpa's sitting there. He's got his shotgun in his lap, and he's got some dark. Can't really see his hunting clothes very well. It's kind of in the shadows and kind of dark there. It looks like he's got the Jones style hunting cap, and it's a bright blue sky day and sun shining in. And there he's kind of in the shadows of the cattails all around. He's looking directly at the camera with just a flat, expressionless face, no smile or anything, just looking at the camera, holding up. Looks like, I don't know, six mallards. Looks like in the left hand he's got three hen mallards, and in his right hand he's got three greenhead, the drakes, in the right hand. So not too bad of a photo. Just clearer than the other ones, seems like, but still in that realm of they have scratches on it on the slide, I guess, from just dust and age. So those are transposed into the image and kind of keeping it from being less than perfect. But back to the chapter. In my early 20s, we doubled our decoy count. It wasn't a typical acquisition of going to the store and just buying some. It was Thanksgiving holiday, and we got together assisting for Thanksgiving, and that Friday, after the big noon meal of leftovers, Grandpa and some of the men decided to get some fresh air. We loaded up in the vehicle and headed up to Long Lake just to look around and get out of the house. And I had parenthetically, that was probably like a 20-minute drive, 20 miles away. Driving down the 2-rut trail to the Heitmann family farm, we had driven far enough and decided to stretch our legs and walk a little further to the little bay tucked in the northeast side of the shore. This bay had some nice cattails encircling the shore, and as we got closer, we could see the frozen lake and ducks. Nobody had a gun. I believe duck season was actually closed, but it didn't matter. On closer inspection, they weren't real ducks. They were plastic decoys frozen in place. Apparently somebody had been out for a last hunt as the weather brought a cold front through, pushing the ducks in and then out of the area as the lakes froze. Whoever it was didn't have permission to hunt the property as far as we knew and made the mistake of leaving the decoys. My guess is the weather was pretty bad and it had gotten late. Figuring they could just come pick up the deeks later in the daylight and with less severe conditions, they had miscalculated. We found their mesh decoy bag matted down in an area where they fashioned a makeshift blind. Carefully sliding out on the ice that was probably barely thick enough to support a skinny kid, I was able to pull the decoys from their frozen suspended animation amidst the ice. What a windfall, an unexpected bonus from an innocent effort to get out of the house and get some fresh air. And here's the photo. A quick drink of water there. This is another photo, and I'll read the caption and try to describe. Shadow, the black lab, posing with a decoy recovered from that fateful Thanksgiving holiday adventure to get some fresh air. This October 1994 Long Lake duck hunt on the Point included a nice staged photo of Shadow. I submitted this photo to Ducks Unlimited for inclusion in their annual calendar. Alas, it never made the cut. Note the trees in the background on the right side of the photo. That is where the original Harry Heitmann homestead was. Nothing left now but the shelter belt that protected the house from the cold north winter winds. So, as I mentioned, I'll way in the upper right, kind of a little bit obscured by some of the close-up grass in the photo. You can see the trees in the background there. That's where the Harry Heitmann homestead and farm place was. And this photo is actually out, looking from the southeast to the northwest. And I took this photo and I waded out into the water and was standing in the water, and shadow was all wet, and could see the water streaming onto the rock that she's sitting on. And you got a duck decoy that's all wrapped up, ready to be bagged up for the end of the day. And so like I said, I'm standing in the water, and there's like one lone, I think it was an oak tree out on that point at that time, 1994. And I have my shotgun leaning against it, and right next to it, and this is behind shadow as she's sitting on the rock, really looking good. Really, it's a really good photo of the black lab shadow. And behind her, you can see a modern duffel bag that I was using. That was one of my Army issue military duffels that was now being used for a decoy bag. And Shadow, she's got a gray muzzle. I think she was probably 7 or 8 years old at that time. And I'm kind of surprised she was able to sit there long enough for me to take a picture. And then behind that, between the trees in the background and the grass on the point, and you can really see the water of Long Lake. It's really a beautiful deep blue color of just the way I guess the sun is reflecting off it. And it's a really it's a sunny day, a nice pale blue sky. And I really like that photo. I mean, that's why obviously I liked it enough to submit it for use as potential image in the Ducks Unlimited annual calendar, but it was rejected. That's okay. Still can enjoy it. Back to the chapter. Sadly, all the duck decoys were lost in a fire when Grady's calf barn burned down in the early 2000s. I believe there is one oddball decoy from Grandpa's original flock that he had given us. It was a hard plastic herder's decoy. The suspect plastic material, instead of rubber, cracked around the base of the neck and was liable to break and just sink. So it had been retired from the raft of usable decoys. I'm going to have to do some checking on its continued existence, and I add parenthetically here a comment on what I've written. I'm not even sure if any of this is true about those decoys being lost in the fire at Grady's place. And it's true that his calf barn burned down, and the topper for the bomber was in there, and it was like the topper was used as a kind of like a shelter for the cats, and there's straw and stuff in there. And I think what had happened, I think Grady said the calf had gotten in there and knocked a bunch of stuff down. There was a heat lamp for the cats, for them to get some protection from the cold winter. And this was February, early March, maybe, or maybe, well, middle of winter, maybe it was January or February, and when it burned down. And apparently the calf had gotten in there and damaged the wiring and that light or something. And eventually it shorted out and burned down the barn, killed multiple cats. And I thought the decoys were in there, but I'm not even sure, because I remember being back at Grady's the last couple of years and seeing the duffel bags, the Army military duffel bags hanging in the new barn. And I always wondered if he had them. I'll have to check with him about that. So it's, maybe they're still around. Maybe we can get some pictures and do another podcast and do some hunting over them. That'd be pretty cool. I'm going to do that. Well, I have plenty of time. The duck season just ended down here, so got till probably October before duck season kicks off again. Figure that out. Try to get that, get answers. I need answers. Anyway, back to the chapter. When I get my chance to resume duck hunting, I'll have to rebuild the flock of decoys. Maybe there's a chance I'll carve my own decoys and hunt over them. Don't hold your breath, but you never know what hobby might spring forth after retiring and departing a full-time 40-hour work week. I can envision myself putting together a dozen wooden block decoys to enjoy the self-satisfaction of hunting over. In the 20 plus years I was away from South Dakota, now I fill the hole in my waterfowling life by collecting many wooden decoys, Ducks Unlimited prints, and other items to tide me over. These decoys are not for use in the field. They are beautiful decorative items to gather dust on my shelves and remind me of simpler times. And they have a couple images here, and I'll read the caption and then describe them. On the left, this photo shows my living room shelves above the television, flush with decorative wooden duck decoys. On the right, I have a photo of my thematic blue goose montage in the living room. A taxidermy blue goose at the top, a Ducks Unlimited John P. Cowan snow and blue goose print in the middle, and on the bottom, a Robert Capriola Ducks Unlimited blue goose decoy. So the photo on the left is just the shelves that are just four shelves on the wall, and I have mallard and pintail wooden decoys on the shelf. The three shelves filled above, and then the bottom shelf, it's got some books on it and some bookend mallard bookends. And it's just a photo of my current house here in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And on the bottom shelf, it's funny too, because it's actually trophies from playing teener baseball. And I got those. One's a trophy. One's mine, and one was Garrett's for championships in, I think, 1981 and 1989, maybe. I think that's where they're from. Garrett from 1989, my championship in 1981. So those trophies, those were used as photos in on the cover or the back cover, or I think they're used in my book that I wrote, the fictionalized version of Teener Baseball. Wrote that, I don't know how many years ago, but so I had those trophies set aside to take pictures of and use them as some sort of, photoshopped photos in that book, or on the cover, and the covers, at least the back cover, I think, or inside pages. I can't remember, but the actual trophies are sitting on that shelf. It's pretty cool. And then behind the one trophy, the 1981 Teener trophy is it's the actual photo of Grandpa's den that I had shown before, I think, in the previous chapters. So that's sitting up there on that shelf too. And the photo on the right is just a blue goose. I shot that blue goose probably in, I don't know, 1999, thereabouts, or 2000. It wasn't 2000. It's probably 98 or 99. Because 2000, I moved away from South Dakota. So that's up near the ceiling. And then a little lower down, there's a little John P. Cowan artwork, a little print, Ducks Limited print. It's pretty cool because John P. Cowan he had this perspective. It's like a bird's eye view of a flock of snow geese flying over like the Texas marshlands. That was his pretty unique style of painting. And I really like that painting. And then a blue goose, smaller than life blue goose decoy sitting on a stand there, kind of like a vertical presentation of a blue goose situation. All right, back to the chapter. I think it's a connection to my grandpa that still draws me to ducks. It's my safe space, a place in my mind where the successful hunts and funny things that happen in the field can be recalled with a glance to an object that represents a pleasant memory. It's a carefree place where the worries of the world are a million miles away for a moment. I hope everyone has a refuge similar to what I have. Yours might not be waterfall related, but whatever you might have, I hope that is a respite and an oasis to refresh your soul. I've only hunted ducks a couple times in the last 20 years. I've always believed I'd make my triumphant return to South Dakota after I retire, and then I would hunt to my heart's content. I think about it every day, as I am reminded about my home decor. And we have another photo here. It's I'll read the caption. A crew of Grandpa's hunting partners with a nice bag of ducks from a morning on Peever Slough, circa 1960. So this is, I think maybe I've shared some of these similar photos before. That same crew. I think they are Richard Hanson's nephews. And I'm pretty sure that's Freddie Hagen. Freddie's got a whole bunch of ducks. Looks like a bunch of nice mallards there. And not everyone's holding a bunch of ducks. And then there's a guy, I can't remember what their names were. They're not, they're not written here, but, for some reason they're holding the paddles for the boat again. They're on the shore of, in amongst all the reeds and cattails and phragmites. You can see the boat, corner of the boat there. And nice color photo. It's pretty clear, actually. It looks kind of a semi overcast day. They got a lot of ducks. Good hunting day. Anyway, let's finish out the chapter here. Back to the chapter. I worry that I violated one of Grandpa's tenets. Don't wish your life away. I know I'm guilty of wishing it was the weekend, or I wish it was fall and elk hunting season, and maybe even wishing it was Sunday to see the Vikings game. I ponder the idea that I ended up shelving my first love of duck hunting for second-tier priorities. Life is full of trade-offs and compromises. One of my career goals was to live in the Rocky Mountains, support myself, and hunt elk. I did it, but at what cost? 20 years I'll never get back. I'm not going to second-guess myself and wallow in self-pity of what might have been. It's been a good run of 18 years and counting here in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where I found Angela. Life works out, and I've surrounded myself with people and things I love. And we have the last couple photos here. And I'll read the caption and describe. On the left, Grady and I with a mixed bag on what was probably a Veterans Day hunt in 1983. On the right, Grady, Garrett, and Greg after a hunt in 1987. So, the photo on the left, it's got me and Grady looking very young. We were in high school, and I don't remember. I really don't remember this well at all, but it looks like there's at least one rooster pheasant, several mallards, and 4 or 5 snow geese laid out in front of us, and we're on each side of this string of geese and ducks and pheasant in the front of the house in Groton, parents' house where we lived, because we were still in high school. And for some reason, the picture is taken. Grady's like in the garage, and I'm outside the garage, just on the edge of the garage front garage door there. And Grady's got his brown Jones-style hunting cap, camouflage sweatshirt, and brown hunting coveralls, and I'm in just blue jeans and a white thermal top, and I got my camouflage Jones-style cap on, and just some like snowpack hunting boots, kind of the rubber soled boots, and they have leather upper, but then they have sort of this not foam, but sort of the material that's insulated material that you could pull out and dry out when needed. It looks like my pants are completely wet below the knees, and I look particularly young there for some reason. Grady does too. And I don't remember the details of that at all. If that was a hunt, that might have been my mom and dad were gone, and Garrett was with them, and we might have gone up and stayed with Grandma and Grandpa Heitmann and hunted up by Sand Lake National Wildlife Refuge up that area. I'm not sure. I wish I had better details on that, but got a nice bag of birds there. It's pretty cool. And in the other picture, we got Garrett sitting in the front, kneeling down. I guess he's not sitting, he's kneeling down. He's got his camouflage sweatshirt on, brown Jones-style cap, and he's holding up a nice big greenhead mallard there. Nice. He's wearing blue jeans, and then I'm directly behind him is Shadow, and you can barely see her. She's just like almost just completely camouflaged in the dark shadow of the vehicle, because Grady and I are sitting on the tailgate of the Ford full-size Bronco that was our hunting vehicle back then. And Grady's just got like a camouflage baseball cap on and gray sweatshirt, and I don't know if he's got coveralls or what he's got there, but he's holding the big Canada goose and in his right hand, and he's got his left hand kind of around Shadow, the hunting dog, and she's sitting on the tailgate of that. And then I'm just kind of, and we're not sitting there. I guess we're leaning up against the tailgate. The dog is sitting on the tailgate. And then I'm on the right side of the photo. I got the camouflage Jones style hunting cap pulled down, not covering my eyes, but way down. And I got a camouflage sweatshirt that's unzipped, and my classic blue, black, and white flannel shirt on underneath my camouflage sweatshirt. And I have some coveralls, like hunting canvas coveralls that I'm wearing. And my jacket's unzipped, the camouflage jacket's unzipped, and you can see there's like a little elastic shotgun shell holders there. And you can see that I got a bunch of shotgun shells still. Didn't get a lot of shots that day, apparently, but I'm holding the goose. I have my camouflage gloves on, and I'm holding a big Canada goose in my right hand. I'm all smiling to the camera. So good photos. All right, let's finish out the chapter. I truly believe we can measure the health of our planet by the number of ducks and geese we see. The waterfowl migration touches every corner of the inhabited earth. The beautiful birds in the waterfowling world extrapolate on the old expression, canary in a coal mine. So take the time to enjoy the birds and do something to preserve the wetlands near you. This tedious introspection I'm presenting was destined. It is an undeniable truth that if you don't know where you are going, any road will get you there. Maybe I missed my true calling. Maybe I should have traded birds for philosophy. I have no training in the philosophical arts. I've never taken a college course or even read a book in the philosophy realm. They say it's never too late. I postulate that all my writing is an exercise to figure out why I am, or why I do what I do. Is the die cast? Was there any chance I wouldn't have turned out exactly the way I am? So many questions with so few answers. I will stop rambling. It is my stream of consciousness. So I will reserve the right to expand on this in future revised editions. So that's it. And as always, I'd like to close the chapter with the quote, and this is a good quote. Quote, "Follow your most intense obsession mercilessly," end quote. And that's Frank Kafka. Not sure exactly. I think he was a philosopher. Let's just say he was a philosopher. I'm going to say German philosopher. I don't know. We can check that later. In the corrections portion, if we ever do any more corrections. So, oh yeah, that was a good chapter. I enjoyed that. That's just such a summary of my waterfall hunting, images and desires and memories, you name it, it's all in there. Just inspirations, just a myriad of duck hunting and duck decoys and everything that goes with it. So that's the end of chapter 26. That's it. Well, if you want to bail out, go ahead, bail out. We're already an hour in. That was kind of a long chapter. I think I warned you on that. And won't go too much longer. I just wanted to mention a couple things. Not necessarily recurring themes in my recurring segments in my podcast, but man, I've been having problems with glitches in this system. I don't know if it's the software I'm using. I think I mentioned I subscribe to this service. It's called Riverside, and that's my podcasting studio. And it is giving me fits. I think I talked about yesterday that I was logged in on two computers, so I could not figure out how to get started because there was two hosts, and I got that figured out. That was on me, but when all was said and done, when I did finally start the podcast yesterday, it cut off probably the first 10 seconds. There was just nothing there, no picture, no volume. So that was really frustrating. So I ended up trimming, I don't know, it caught like the end of the last 2 words of one of the sentence I had introduced the whole podcast with. So I cut that off and then started fresh, but without an actual real introduction. Is you probably can't tell with the way that when that podcast came out, but it was, oh, it just made me so mad. And then I think it ended up, and this has been an ongoing thing too, an ongoing bug or glitch. And I think I talked about this glitches galore, where it'll take the audio track and it will just go dead. So when I'm editing or doing anything, getting ready to process it or whatever, get it put up, you can see my mouth moving. I'm talking, but there's no transcript and no audio with it. And it's like, what is going on? And I've fixed that a couple different times by shutting down the whole, Google Chrome, because I operate in Google Chrome. I You can't use Safari, which is the iMac or the MacBook that I would prefer to use, but it's more of a Android system, so you have to use Chrome. So I've been able to shut the whole thing down, start it up again, and then the audio would come back. So thank goodness for that, because that was scaring the heck out of me that it's like lost the whole podcast. So I'm hoping for better luck in the future with that. Maybe I should ask Riverside if they're working on some patches or something, to updates to fix that, because man, it's annoying. You start editing something, because I'll put the introductory music in. That's usually I'm gonna stop doing that now. I'm gonna make sure I go through the whole thing and there's no dead spots, so I don't have to like restart it, because if there is dead spots, then you have to go to the raw podcast again and start editing all over, and it's just grueling to do, tedious to do a lot of this stuff, and then have to redo it. Very annoying. Anyway, I won't complain too much more about that, but countdown continues. Going to hold up the book. This is the Buffalo Lake book. I think probably Friday. I'm going to see if I can get that other poster up. I'm going to start talking about Big Cooley, Charlie LeBeau mystery. But this is Buffalo Lake, a Charlie LeBeau mystery, and still trying to advertise this and get that out, get that on notice. Hopefully people, if anybody new is watching this and you have any sort of inclination of enjoyment on this podcast, I think these books would be very much appreciated by yourself. If you want to get a copy through Kindle or order them through Amazon, they're cheap, good, entertaining, fun read, nothing too deep. Just sort of the fiction book summarizing some of the thoughts and addressing some of the common issues of today, but most of all, just for entertainment. So a lot of people don't read fiction because they say, "Oh, I only read nonfiction," like that's some sort of badge of honor. But you get a lot of lessons out of even any fictional book, because what fiction does, it's actually a distillation of reality. It kind of puts everything down, filters it down into more compact situation, and maybe teaches you a lesson. I don't know if there's a lot of lessons in my book necessarily, or any of my books. Kind of is, because I kind of get on a soapbox through the characters in there, and kind of share some of my own personal opinions and feelings and stuff, and what I think are correct positions to take. But that's just my opinion. So anyway, I think I'm kind of wore out. My voice is kind of fading away, and hopefully, hopefully the audio's not picking it up. But the dog is barking. It's been barking for a while, so I don't want to disturb the neighbors too badly. It's middle of the afternoon now, so it's not like it's early morning where the dogs can do a lot of howling and annoying things, unless you're taking a nap. And they do live in more of a retirement community now, including myself, older people. So maybe they are taking naps and this barking may be annoying them. But I guess I'm gonna I'll shut her down so we can go check on the dog and go for another walk, get her exercise. I did give her one of my T-bones. I don't know if I talked about in the podcast previously about getting some T-bones. I got some T-bones, grilled them, and I cut the meat off, and I got the bones in the fridge, and I gave her one of the T-bones to try to keep her entertained while I was doing this podcast. But it only lasted maybe, I don't know, half hour at the most before I could hear some of the whining and barking out there. So she's been barking probably for 40 minutes now, not continuously, off and on. So go out there and see if she dug a big hole in my yard. That's one of my fears too, is that she's going to be destructive. I was warned by Stev that he said, yeah, you're probably going to go out at one point or some point during this, during the baby or the dog sitting adventure and she's going to have wrecked something and it'd be like, oh, well, shrug your shoulders and that's it. If she digs a big hole, it's no big deal. Just put the dirt back in the hole. So, all right, good chapter today. Glad I got it in the record. Hopefully everything goes well, and this podcast is out this evening, and you can enjoy it. So, that's it. I'm gonna wrap it up. More barking. It's telling me, hurry up, wrap that up. So anyway, we'll say goodbye. We'll just say see you later, and as always, be assertive, be positive, be proactive. Knock, and the door will be open to you. Seek, and you will find. Ask, and you shall be given. So that's it. Let's wrap it up. And 4 days in a row, going for 5 tomorrow. See you tomorrow, and have a good Wednesday. Bye.